we've got 41 drives that aren't garbage time drives since the second half of the Giants game. Of 41 drives, you got 22 touchdowns.
Woo!
I'm dropping a banner about the tackle that turned the tide. Anyone's ever gotten a tattoo?
Hold on, is that a real, is this supposed to have saran wrap on it?
I had to take it off for the show. The tackle that
You did
turned the
not
tide.
get that.
That is, that's above 50% touchdown rate. You've got another 5 field goals, which I know people love touchdowns over field goals, but if you average 3 points per drive as a team, you'd probably lead the league in scoring.
Correct. You actually would lead the league in scoring. I think most people would say 2.5 points per possession is like exquisite. Yeah.
Right. So you got 22 touchdowns, 5 field goals, and then you got another missed field goal that was a 56-yarder, but they were in range. I think Butker, kicking the way he is now, probably hits that. And so you have that, but then you've got 3 interceptions, 7 punts, 1 end of half, 1 end of game, 1 turnover and down. They are averaging 6.3 yards per play, which would be right near the top of the league. They are just moving the ball incredibly well, and people aren't even realizing, people are talking about, the Chiefs offense looks back, it looks good, but the rate stats, as good as they've been, aren't even quite telling the whole story because they've been annihilating teams lately that you get at least one garbage time drive, if not, a garbage time quarter and a third against the Raiders. And so it was really cool to watch. And even with as janky as things looked at times against the Commanders, who really started the game well, Mark Bullock has a Substack breaking down the film for the Commanders, and he's had it for years. Excellent analyst. And he wrote a really good piece about how a lot of what the Commanders were doing on defense against the Chiefs was very different than what they've been doing in previous weeks. So if you're wondering why things looked a little janky with that opening script and things looked like they were coming a little harder, it's because they were showing very different stuff than what they've been putting on film, which they had to do because their defense was so bad. The Chiefs' offense was actually moving the ball pretty decently, even in the first half. Seth, how come they only put up 7 points? Because they turned the ball over twice. That's the bell curve. Well, turnovers are super important, and then you have all this other stuff where there's more football knowledge than you could ever even think of. This room, this stadium full of interconnected levers that contains so much beauty, so many things that are fun, like a Rashee Rice touchdown that's set up by so many things that I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about. And then you get all to that, and it's like, man, so turnovers, huh? Because that really, it doesn't matter if you're moving the ball great if you just give the ball back to the opposing team when you're reaching or are in scoring position. So that's how you move the ball pretty well and don't put up points is you throw a turnover when you throw a pick when you're already in field goal range, which, by the way, back shoulder throws, probably not to Hollywood Brown, Pat. Love the idea. Maybe, Kelsey, Juju, Rashee, not Hollywood Brown. Because that was, so of Mahomes' 2 picks, by the way, 1.5 is on him. He shouldn't have thrown that. The corner was looking and was in good position. But, Brown is not a back shoulder throw guy. He's made some contested catches this year, but he's not a back shoulder throw. He was, actively fading away, which is literally the opposite of what you want on a back shoulder. So they were moving the ball well. When Kelsey had his drop, had he caught that, you've got first down. You're probably around the 42, maybe the 40 if he, pulls guys forward with him a little bit. You're basically in scoring range already. You can keep moving, but instead the other team gets the ball. Throws a pick to Brown, even if it falls incomplete. Yeah, that's probably 3 points because, as we talked about last week, Harrison Butker is back to kicking the ball very well and dropping down on one knee right afterward, which is not good form and probably hurts. But he's kicking the ball accurately again. Sorry, dude. I hope your knee feels okay. I don't know what to tell you.
Job security.
Yeah, he had to do it. That was not tenable, what was happening. So they were moving the ball well, and then that got me to thinking about the turnover on the goal line against the Jags, which is the only reason they didn't put up 35 in that game and win, which I'm still deeply annoyed they lost that game because they've got a murderer's row in their next 3 games, and they kind of got to go 2-1 if they don't want to be perfect on the stretch. But you have a play like that where that kills a really promising drive. You have a pick against the Eagles that kills a promising drive. There's just been multiple things that have happened where good drives didn't result in points. People that really know the Chiefs, that are paying attention, know that their offense kind of turned it around. It had halftime against the Giants. I think the NFL as a whole is like, oh, in the Ravens game, things really started picking up. Second half against the Giants is when it started. And so I went back and I looked at what they've done on drives they're actually trying to score, which takes out like
Gardner Minshew.
It takes out basically a full fourth of the Raiders game, if not more. Takes off a drive against the Ravens, takes off that last drive against the Commanders. And what I found here, the offense is somehow actually better even than what people realize it's been, because the rate stats, which are good stats, EPA per play, DVOA, which does account for garbage time but still doesn't entirely leave it out, all of that, it doesn't show that what's happening when they're trying to score. When they're trying to score, they are moving the ball incredibly well, incredibly efficiently. This was the first game where Jalen Moore, you could kind of see the downgrade there a little bit. He allowed the rusher to get to his chest a little bit. Yeah.
It seemed like the second half went significantly better for him. Was that true to you also?
Yes. Okay. It was definitely better. Caliendo tightened it up a little bit too, although he still had some struggles in the second half. You saw a little more come from the interior. You saw the pockets weren't as good as they've been with Trey Smith, which we all knew was going to happen. But it was the first game, and this makes sense when you take out Trey Smith and you're not playing a joke of a franchise. Now you're losing two starting offensive linemen, even with a really good backup, who I think Jalen Moore is probably, 90% as good as Josh Simmons, 95% as good, but that 5% matters against higher end pass rushes or pass rushers. And he just didn't have, he's not a really powerful guy in his upper body. And so he got bull rushed back a few times. But there was still enough time in the second half to where it wasn't like a catastrophe. Shout out to you, Kingsley Suamata-Ia, for being part of the solution. Because if one more position folds there, that's when you have a catastrophe. To where he's felt, even though he was rushed occasionally, he was rushed in an organized way. Like you take the touchdown pass to Rashee Rice. He had to climb the pocket and he dropped his eyes for a minute, but he wasn't so hurried that he didn't have time to look back up and still make the throw. There were a couple times where, he had to bail out left, but he wasn't sprinting. He was rolling, and that makes all the difference in the world because you're square and you can make throws.
Right.
So even as it looked janky and just wasn't quite what you're looking for with the offense, that was in part because the Commanders really threw a lot of different stuff at them than what they'd done previously, which that's always has value. And they really were, they got pressure early, and Andy reverted faster than I'd like to, okay, we're going to dink and dunk, and the Commanders were ready for that. They did a great job. It kind of looked like some of the matchups they had last year against the Raiders and the year before, where you have really, really trying to smash the line of scrimmage stuff, and the Commanders did a good job. So that really, all that is true, but mostly, so now we've done the bell curve thing. They turned the ball over twice. That was it. Otherwise they probably have 10, 13, 14, 17. And even as it looks kind of less ugly or less pretty, you're still putting up production. And then the second half happened. And I'll leave this to you, Josh, because I'm taking us down a trail because I've gone from the general to the specific. Now I'm back to the general. They went on a run. And that's something they've been doing a lot of lately, where you'll have back-to-back touchdowns or touchdown, field goal, touchdown, or at the very least touchdown, field goal, where they suddenly on 2 possessions, you get 14 points, 3 possessions, you get 17 or 21. And that, you can see the effect it has on the opposing team's offense too. And that's another thing about this Chiefs team that differentiates them so much from 2023 and 2024. They're capable of going on runs that really, if you're the other team, you have to keep up or the game is over by the fourth quarter, which by and large, that's what we had. We had Troy Aikman saying, man, this game felt pretty close at halftime. And here we are. And wow, I'm going to compliment Patrick Mahomes and then complain that an obvious roughing call was called.